Welcome back to Fast Jet Performance there. My name is Tim Davies. This video is about alcohol and the problems with alcohol. And I've got a history of it. And we're going to have a look at a Marine, unfortunately, who didn't beat the clock. A guy who succumbed his alcohol addiction. The reason I want to talk to you about this, guys, is because this man was 43 when he died. And I was 43 when I left the military myself with alcohol problems as well. It's not why I left the military, obviously, but they did develop over the next 5 years. Now, I've been 2.5 years clear of alcohol, so let's delve into this story and we'll see whether we got any lessons that we can take away from it. People don't enjoy this content. It's not supposed to be enjoyed, but this content resonates with people years after I've made the videos, guys. This is a guy called Andrew Elsie. He was a Royal Marine. He joined very early on, about 16 years old. Looks like he had an awesome career. 24 years the man served. Now, I understand a lot about this kind of problem because I went through it myself. Okay, I'll put my hand up to it. There's my hand, guys. I did it myself, all right? Having flown in the Air Force for 20 years, when I came out, I obviously had alcohol issues as well. I've spoken about it on this channel quite a lot. Let's talk about this story. Troubled Royal Marine choked to death on a piece of steak. Before we go into this, guys, I want to point out, if you get the offer for ground news up here, I'll do a 1-minute advert in the minute they sponsor the channel. You can see whether the articles you're looking at are biased. That's quite important. You get this bar up top and up top on this one as well. It just helps you see what's going on. I've got rid of the bar from this. It just means that what we're looking at when we use something like ground news is a balanced perspective. All right, so we're just making sure the mainstream media is not trying to poison our views. A Royal Marine Sergeant, so the guy's obviously done very well, who struggled to adapt to civilian life, choked to death on a piece of steak, an inquest as heard. Now, with a death like this, there has to be a coroner's inquest, all right? It's not a normal death. I'm going to show you some stuff in a minute about the amount of alcohol that this man drank. And what I'm also going to talk to you about is that it was the same as what I was drinking when I stopped. We're going to use AI to look into some of those figures. I'm going to talk to you about how you can come out of this if this is a problem that you are also having. Now, he was discharged from the Royal Marines after 24 years, kind of during that COVID time, and he became homeless after the relationship broke up, and he moved into the Meon Valley Hotel in Hampshire on the 2nd of August, actually, a charity. He'd gone to a charity for help, and they'd moved him into this temporary accommodation in this hotel, and obviously he died there 3 days later. He'd been eating steak in the restaurant at about 7:20 in the evening. Obviously, he got up early from the meal, apparently, was seen stumbling down one of the corridors towards a water fountain, collapsed, couldn't be resuscitated. Paramedics were called and he was pronounced dead. Now, when you look at the alcohol level, that obviously he choked on vomit, whatever, that kind of stuff, understandable. The alcohol level might surprise a lot of you, but for any of us who have been there, this is not a surprising amount of alcohol at all. Now, what I did towards the end of my drinking, and I'm not trying to make this about me, I'm just telling you how I worked. I started putting rules in place. If you've got rules, you know what I'm talking about. I'd never drink before 6 o'clock, even if I was on a stag do, anything like that. Before 6 o'clock, I'd never drink. One of the big problems I had, though, sometimes, and it may well be that Mr. Elsie here has done the same thing, is that I would drink a significant amount very early in the evening from 6 o'clock. So by maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock, I drank quite a lot. And I was looking, especially when I was flying in the Air Force, at maybe 10 or 12 like beers a night. And I had to really kind of ration that for the rest of the evening. One of the biggest fears we have, of course, people with alcohol problems, is that we're going to drink too much and we're going to sober ourselves up from the drinking. Now, if people haven't got drink problems, you probably don't understand what I'm talking about. You can drink yourself sober by drinking so much that your body processes it so quickly that you end up, the alcohol doesn't have a buzz anymore. You don't have an effect anymore. You've in effect, you've drunk yourself sober. It's a very frustrating position to be in, but it's one that's very common with a lot of drinkers. So it seems that Andrew, and I will call him Andrew because I've got a lot of respect, obviously, for this man. 24 years in the military, fighting demons on the way out. He's got PTSD, marriage broken up. We're talking about Marines before who've also been in that problem. You may remember this video I did a couple of years back on Matt Holmes, the Commandant General of the Royal Marines. Again, marriage breakup and, took his own life, unfortunately. So he's drunk a lot. We're going to look at those figures right now. So a toxicology report showed that Mr. Elsie had 385 milligrams of alcohol in 100 millilitres of blood, 4.5 times the legal driving limits of 80 milligrams and above a possible fatal level of 350. Now, these figures are not shocking to me, guys. We're going to check some biases quickly with the channel sponsor. When we get back, I put these into AI and I put my own drinking into AI and it gave me back Some pretty astounding news. A quick advert for Ground News, who sponsor this channel, luckily, because YouTube ain't giving me no money, fam. You know what I'm talking about. All the stories you'll find on the front page here that are current. However, you can search for stuff in the bar at the top. When you click on a story, then it will show you here, look, what's left-leaning, center, or right-leaning. It's a right-leaning story. Let's click on it. And then straight away, it gives you a summary at the top there. All the stories here, down there. You can even expand it for more articles if you want at the bottom. On the right here, it shows that there's 34 articles. There's 5 left, 14 right, and then there's 5 center. Below it then, the bias distribution shows that this is a right-leaning article, and you can see here, Fox News, Israel, all that kind of stuff, you know what I'm saying? Here, factuality, expand that. You can see which ones are more factually correct than others, and so you can see who owns it as well. Where are your biases in this? Click on the article if you want. You'll go straight to that website then, and at the top you can see there's a bar that drops down as well, again showing where these biases are. You can then look at left-leaning articles and right-leaning articles and not get sidetracked by the mainstream media. 40% off, thank me later. Let's look at what AI gave me back. Then we got 385 milligrams of alcohol, 100 milliliters of blood, 4.8 times the legal driving limit of 80 milligrams, and above a possible fatal level of 350, which sounds shocking to a lot of people who are not massive drinkers like Andrew and myself were. In fact, pretty much my parents were as well, which obviously where it came from. So let's jump into AI. Pretty straightforward question then, mate, wasn't it? I used to drink about 12 to 14 pints of 4% lager from 6 p.m. to midnight. This is what I said because this is what I did. What would my levels be like? This is from a news article where we talk about Andrew Elsie, the former Royal Marine that we've just been talking about now. Now, listen, people would say to me, and they have said for a long time, Tim, you never drank 12 to 14 pints. I'm not doing it to prove how well I used to drink, if that's a big thing. I don't mean that. A lot of the times, they may not be in pints. They were the 500ml tins, or there'll be 14 to 16 of the 468, is it? You know what I mean? Those smaller tins. 4%, sometimes 5%, especially towards the end. I was hitting the Stella pretty hard. It's a cleaner beer, but of course you want to go and smash your wife up, don't you? We all know it. So it comes back then. That's an important and sobering question. Let's break it down carefully so you can see what I would have been. It does some maths here. So it tells what a pint is, 568 milliliters. It says what 4% is. As we know, 4% then, we're looking at 1 in 25 parts alcohol, aren't we, of ethanol parts. And that's what alcohol is, really. It's a poison that we just flavour. I'm not going against it, guys. I'm not that guy saying stop drinking. I'm not saying at all. But what we're saying is you cannot drink neat ethanol. We know that, right? We can't do it. So we've got to flavour it. We've got to water it down. And I've never liked the whiskies, the spirits. So 4% there. So this is the sort of thing that Andrew's dealing with right now. He's gone to the bar, obviously smashing into the beers and the cocktails and the whiskey, whatever he's done, early in the evening, and I think he's gone downstairs to sober himself up with a bit of menu, got a bit of food in him, sort of thing, So saying 12 pints, 14 pints, how much ethanol was I putting in my body there? It says how many units that is. And interestingly, whenever the doctor used to ask me, how much were you drinking, Tim? I used to say 12 to 14 pints. And they go, oh, that's quite a lot for a week. And I say, no, that was a day. Now, I was always honest with doctors, full stop, in the military when I was flying. And you know what the doctors used to say was, they used to say, maybe drop it a little bit, mate, you know what I mean? Got to get in the jet the next day, yeah? Even when I went to see a psychiatrist, about other issues that I was dealing with in the military towards the end of my career, the psychiatrist actually said to me, no word of a lie, whatever you do, do not stop drinking. It's the only thing that gets you into the airplane in the morning. And that's the military for you. I never said the military was easy, mate, did I? You know what I mean? Right, there we go. So extremely high dose in a 6-hour window. As I said, there's a severe chance of me drinking myself sober. So I had to space it out over an evening. Nothing worse than having 4 or 5 pints in the first hour. And now I'm like, oh my God, I've only got about 7 pints. I knew if I tripped that 12-pint limit, I was in for a really bad day the following day. But I would process alcohol very quickly. And I think Andrew was probably the same. He must have been in order to consume this much alcohol and still be alive. You can do it if you drink for a long period of time. The problem is a lot of people don't drink for a long period of time. And therefore, when they do consume this thing on a stag do, hen do, they get alcohol poisoning because they haven't conditioned themselves to the abuse by consuming this length of alcohol. Talks about weight, water, that kind of stuff. And it says, and also, I'm not an 80 kilogram man. I'm a 100 kilogram man. So for me, it wasn't the same effect here. I don't know how much Andrew weighed, but I did weigh a bit more. Talk about blood alcohol content or blood alcohol concentration here. And then when we get down the bottom, they convert it and it says, so my figures, it says anything from 395 to 461. Andrews were 385. Obviously, when he'd done a toxology report, obviously he'd been dead for a couple of hours there, don't get me wrong. So his body would have been processing that still. So it could have been higher than that, probably in the region that I was in there as well. It's well into the range where severe central nervous system depression occurs. And I would feel that late in the evening. I'd feel like I knew something was going on, you know what I mean? I was never sick. I don't get sick. I haven't been sick for about 30 years for some reason, don't know why. I also wouldn't go unconscious until I actually went to bed. Respiratory arrest is possible. I'll tell you what I did find. I did find towards the end of my drinking, I had breathing issues. Like I couldn't get enough air into me. I just felt, and I stopped 2.5 years ago, guys. I'm just trying to tell you how it is. Death is a significant risk. Yeah, probably from flying the airplane next day, if I'm honest, mate. You know what I mean? So I said to AI, there's a theory, right, about some people being able to process alcohol faster than others, a liver enzyme or something, right? Because I've been interested in this. It goes, yeah, there is. Basically, alcohol dehydrogenase. Now, if you are an alcohol specialist, this is the time to whack a comment down the bottom there. You know it makes sense, and it's going to really help people understand this kind of thing because it's affecting a lot more people than we realize. We are in a demoralization stage right now. You know how it is. And what do people do when they're demoralized? They smash into the lagers, they get the whiskey bottle out, you know what I mean? They're drinking wine every evening. I know you're doing it because I get the emails from you, but I'm not here as an alcohol cessation specialist. I just try and offer you content that destroys my channel, by the way, because YouTube algorithm hates it, but for you to benefit from and you obviously do something with in your own time, carry on. So basically the main liver enzyme starts breaking down alcohol into different bits and pieces. And so some populations have more active versions of it than others. Asian populations don't seem to do very well with alcohol for some reason. Nauseous, rapid heartbeat, that kind of stuff. But Northern European populations are okay with it. We don't find it unpleasant. That's the problem. And therefore, we drink more because we're processing it more quickly. And because we're processing it more quickly, we drink more to have the same effect. And that's what gets you addicted to alcohol. It's that constant imbibing of the product itself. And it says there with a tolerance mechanism, as I've just said as well, liver enzymes get upregulated. The brain becomes less responsive to alcohol effects. So you don't feel as drunk. There we go. And acute tolerance. This is what I had. And I think Andrew probably had the same thing here. During a single drinking session, you feel more sober later, even though your blood alcohol, the concentration levels is still high. That's what I mean by drinking yourself sober. And that's when people go on to the spirits to get their buzz on at the end of the session, don't they? And that's where the danger zone really exists. So finishing this off then, this man was walking into trouble. Unfortunately, there was nowhere there that could help him. No one there, unfortunately, that could knock him to one side and say, mate, we got to recalibrate you a little bit. Alcohol, always a big part of his life. The military was huge. And in my days, alcohol was massive. That's how you did your learning in the bar. I'm not blaming anyone. It's my fault. Not the military's fault. It's my fault completely. And he was struggling when he came to the end of his time in the military. Civvy Street is hard. The transition is nails. If you're in the military right now, I'm not interested in you helping you. I'm a busy man, but I'm just saying, just get some anchors to hang on to, else alcohol becomes very, very tempting because it takes away all those fears and everything else, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Join the Marines early. You know what I mean? You can just see this. It happens to so many people, and I truly wish them all the best. If I could give any advice, all I'd say is that you need to embrace that suffering of cessation before it gets too much. You can try and do the balancing thing if you want. I went through that as well. I would just end with saying that when I stopped drinking, it was because of luck. I counted myself lucky. What does that mean, luck? Well, what is luck? Luck is when opportunity meets preparedness. So an opportunity came along and I was prepared for it because I've been trying to give up for about 5 years. The opportunity was January the 1st was coming around. I was smashed up at Christmas time like normal, and I've been reading a lot about stopping drinking and watching a lot of videos like this one as well, and reaching out and just looking at people who'd obviously given up. They'd done some good jobs that had given up alcohol, and then I knew it could be done, but I knew that there was going to be a bit of suffering, a bit of hardship. But that's what makes the man, right? It's taking that rocky road and not the easy road. It's about being someone and doing something promising with your life, and not just being that guy, unfortunately, that ends up, and I hate to say it, but choking on a piece of steak in a restaurant in Hampshire at the age of 43. Look, it's not on, guys. You've got a responsibility to do something for yourself and for your families. Fitness, family, finance, fuel, and faith. Difficult times out there. It's not right that you're smashing your alcohol in the evening. Twist that round. Get yourself in the gym. All right. do something more purposeful with your life. Hopefully this helped, guys. Wishing you all the best. Tim Davies, Fast Jet Performance.